Ladies and gentlemen, Adon Rigg here with Clean Pro, and I'm excited to introduce you to president and owner of JDM Janitorial, based out of Fort Worth, Texas. His name is Joseph Lockhart. Joseph, welcome.
Hello, hey Aiden, I'm glad to be here.
Love our little chat we're just having, and getting a little about you. I always like to start off. I don't know if you've seen any other episodes before, but usually with the same first question, because I'm always intrigued by uh, people coming into the janitorial business, and most of us don't grow up, thinking I'm going to be in the janitorial business. Some of us
Right.
do, but not most of us. Usually fall into it some way. What happened? So, what's your story? How did you get into the world of cleaning?
Yeah, definitely not interested at all in cleaning toilets and all that good stuff when I first came out.
Right?
But yeah, my wife, I mean my mom, she always ran a business when I was a kid, and I would watch her bring in all types of money, and she would work really hard, and she would get these results. And I watched my dad, who worked for companies, big companies, but on a lower level, entry level, and he would go from big company to big company at an entry level position, and he would be tired and worked hard and frustrated. And I said, I think I'll do what she's doing. So, as a teenager, I was hard headed, and I would always be trying to implement different things in companies, trying what I saw, and they would resist it. Yeah, and so I finally got frustrated with all of that, and I started a little side business cleaning because it was the easiest thing to get into at the time. And then we were working at a company. I was making a good amount of money. Everything was going well, and that company was about to shut down all of a sudden. They did some shady things at the corporate level, and it affected everybody. And so I went home, I prayed. I had a job lined up with Edward Jones to be a financial advisor. I was like, I'm good, no big deal. I opened up my Bible. It's supposed to start in 4 months. I was going to take a vacation with my wife, and we're going to hang out until it's time. And the Bible literally said, "Do not wait 4 months." And I was like, what the heck? What is this? And so I closed the Bible, and I'm like, Lord, what are you trying to show me? And I start praying, and he says, that janitorial company that you started on the side, that's going to be how you pay your bills. I'm like, I had one customer for $1,700 a month. That didn't pay any bills. And so, but I was scared to not listen. So I took the plunge, started it, and man, we've been super blessed ever since.
I love it. As you're seeing it, I looked down because I wasn't sure what shirt I'm wearing, because I have a shirt. It's Clean Pro, and inside here, this one's a microphone, but I also have one where it's a cross. And
Oh,
so,
cool.
man of faith, I love it. And so I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. I was like, am I wearing that? No, but
No.
love it. And yeah, sometimes you can open up the book, and it speaks right to you, right? And there's no
Yeah, oh,
denying
it
it.
did. Yes.
That's 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 awesome. Yeah, I mean the cleaning business, right? I mean it's so easy to get into, it's so low barrier of entry. Um, but
But
it's not easy to run, right? I mean, forget about trying to get the people and keep the people, but I mean everything else outside of that. Um, uh, so what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in growing your business? Like you had the one account. Um, I assume you were doing a lot of the work at the beginning. So and then you got probably family and life and that. So just to get out and get more business while you're doing that, how did you kind of grow that? What challenges did you face?
so I there was a lot of challenges, right? It's like pick your poison. I think the first challenge is getting the customers, finding out how to market yourself when you don't have a book of business, you don't have any references or referrals. And so that was really hard. It took a long time for me to figure that out. And subcontracting, once we figured out what subcontracting was, then I could I could use my business skills to go out and do the business stuff, and they were bringing customers to us. So then all I had to do was maintain the crews and put together operations manuals and all that stuff, the strategic stuff to run the business. And I wasn't out grinding trying to get new customers because it was really hard. I knocked on probably 300 or 400 doors trying to, I mean, if we were a dentist, chiropractors, I didn't care. I was just hungry to get a customer, and it took forever doing it that way. But when we got the subcontract thing going, I hit it off with the contractor, and then we started doing business. Once I got that business going well, I could use them for referrals and start going after my own stuff.
So elaborate a little bit on the subcontractors, on what that looks like. So what were they already doing work and you went there and they fell under you, or you went and got work and gave it to them, or how did that kind of?
Right. So usually with the subcontractors we were working with, they would advertise all over the United States and stuff would just come to them and then off of their advertisements. And then once they got it, then a regional would call us and say, hey, we got this job, we got this job. Do you have a crew? Yeah, I got a crew. Even if I don't have a crew, I'm about to have a crew so I can get to work. And then we would go out there and just perform the work. They would pay the contractor, they would pay us 15 days later, and it worked out pretty good. The only issues with subcontracting is you don't have any communication ties with the customer, and so that's what we ran into later on, and that's why we don't do subcontracting anymore because that communication is key with customers, and if that main contractor is not really keeping a real open line of communication, it causes a lot of headaches on the front line.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I don't know sure what it's like in Fort Worth, Texas, but I'm almost everywhere it's very competitive.
Very.
Um, so what do you do to stand out in such a competitive market, and what have you found um, works for you?
Yeah, kind of. We started talking right off the bat. Innovation is huge to us. I've seen people that have no innovation whatsoever be successful in janitorial. Old string mops and the whole deal, and they're committed to those systems and processes, and it works for them. For us, it's all about efficiency, time management, continual improvement, and so we have this thing ISSA, right? They do the standards,
Yep,
and we
yep.
go through and we reevaluate every time they put out a new standard, we'll reevaluate our processes against it. So when I first started the business, they had just this one download that you could pull up, and it said, a string mop with a bucket takes this many minutes to clean 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
A flat mop with a bucket, it takes this many minutes. I was like, oh, well, that's like a third of the time. I'm not using string mops anymore. Like I looked at backpack vacuum cleaners versus upright vacuum cleaners. I was like, oh, this will save me 2 hours on this one account. Oh, I'm switching that out. And so you get resistance because the cleaners have been trained one way. They're good at what they do. And then you bring in these new techniques and new equipment. And so you have to retrain them and then you have to hold them accountable to that new process. But what they find is that I'm making them more money. And so eventually we usually settle pretty good. Every once in a while I get some resistance.
Well, it's funny you say that because I've been using the ISSA cleaning times as a guide for so long, and when you take like a flat mop towards a mop to floor to finish a floor as an example, and just maybe 6 8 months ago I went to go meet with someone and they were doing the mop and bucket with, and it'd been a long time since I'd done that, and
Yeah.
um I wasn't too successful trying to switch them over to they had the way, and I was like, good for you, but the time difference. So
Yes.
that I mean, and that's a great lesson for anyone that's listening is utilizing technology to make that up, and uh yeah, I mean, I just know off the top of my head, I have to say they say with a string mop takes 1 hour to do 1,665 square feet, right?
Mm.
So I know that off the top of my head. I don't know why that's the one I know, and I know that probably is done in 15 or 20 minutes with a flat mop.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and just think of that time, that time savings. That's great. So you use that to what do you do that to condense the time it takes something, or recognizing that your competitors are using a string mop, so you using that, and so you can quote lower, or how does that work for you?
So it's so basically what we use it to quote lower, to be
Yep.
more efficient, and to raise the dollar per hour that we can pay. So
Yeah.
if we're moving at this efficiency, we don't have to lower you. So what So we have experienced a lot of different stuff. We tried paying people hourly. We've done flat costing and different stuff, and we ended up sticking with flat costing. And the reason is because when we made things more efficient, they benefited from just finishing and going to the next account. And so and now you do run into some issues with people taking shortcuts and those things. But what we've experienced is that as long as we follow up with them and go check the accounts, then it works out pretty good for us. And so I lost track of my thought. Well, should, good. I don't want to leave the question too far
But
behind.
yeah, but using that technology and the bidding. And well, it's funny because years and years and years and years ago, uh it's like 32 or 33 now. When it was little, I had a stepson, and his dad worked as a mechanic in a place called Speedy Muffler.
Mhm.
And we'd take the car there, and he would open up the book and go, okay, to take the brakes or whatever, it's $550.
Right.
And then they got paid with, they got penalized if the job was, if I came back and wasn't done, but they said, okay, it's an hour and a half to do that job. And then of course they would try to get done in 45 minutes or an
Correct.
hour without, well, by still, having the integrity of the job, doing well and stuff like that. So I learned that years ago. It's like, okay, that makes more sense because it incentivizes someone to work harder instead of going, oh, I might stretch this out another hour. I need the extra $20 or whatever.
Exactly.
So, so that's a competitive advantage in itself. Um,
Yeah.
so let's switch a little bit now to, to now your business is well established and stuff like that. Um, from a sales and marketing standpoint, let's talk about marketing first. Um, and I'll define marketing as kind of like the advertising, the one to many. But how do you define that, and what do you do from a marketing standpoint?
So we're going through a big shift with marketing. Honestly, it's been word of mouth and real local with what we've been doing. How we grew the business, how we established it. It was just very localized. We set up a website early on. It got us a few hits every once in a while, but really it's been about get a customer, kill it, and then ask for referrals. Get a customer, kill it, ask for referrals, and then get into the community. So our chambers of commerce, we do a thing called DFW MSDC, which is a minority council that's well connected, that has connected us with people like CBRE and this company called Vistra Corp. So just working those local connections is really how we built it up. We're shifting now to be more active. We're looking at growing, expanding. I'm starting to step further and further out of the business, and so I got to keep these guys busy in doing so. So now our CRM is being set up like we were talking about earlier, so that it can start doing a lot of those automated processes and outreach. And so we just sent our first wave of test emails maybe 2 weeks ago, and we had a pretty good open rate. Click-through rate was okay. It was like around 10%. And so we're looking at that, and we're studying. 'Cause I'm a business major, and so I'm all about analytics, numbers, and that's who I am. So I love sales. So it's been hard for me to give up this sales stuff, but
I
that's what
love
I'm
it. I
working on.
love it because that's what we do too, right? And it's amazing like just changing the subject line just slightly, right? Or changing the first wording, or making it personalized, but being able to do that at scale instead of like actually, you know
Exactly.
one to one to one, and going in and actually doing these things. So it's funny because I can see when it's done to me. Uh, and that's the funny thing when we're talking about, recently I interviewed Jeb Blunt, who's 16 books, financial prospecting, what have you. And he's thinking big picture. So from his perspective, enterprise sales, he said email marketing, email cold outreach is dead. And I don't think it's dead, but from his perspective on enterprise, large accounts, I can see that. I can see that it is, like the tech companies of the world and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because they're all using AI, and he talks about how in one day he got 3 emails from 3 different people that were almost exactly the same,
Right.
right? So, so my point being with anyone watching is utilizing technology absolutely, but you have to you have to know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yep.
right. You have to know what you're doing. You can't just say go to AI, write me an email, and this out it goes. Um,
Yes.
uh,
Now
so
you're right.
it is a science, right? It is a science, and fine tuning that. So that's the marketing piece. I love that you're innovative and get that piece, and not everyone does. Um, so I know you're still kind of progressing with that, but where will or where does the when do you switch from the one to many to the one to one selling? So someone opens up that
Yeah.
email or what have you. What kind of process are you doing
Right.
or working towards?
So yeah, so the open so they have triggers, right? And so you'll send out the email, and then it will automatically go to the next step. So when they open, it sets off a trigger. Okay, they've opened it. Did they click anything? If they clicked, then we'll try to schedule a call immediately. Especially depending on what they clicked on.
Yeah,
We'll try to schedule that call. If they just opened it and they haven't, then we'll send them another email with related topics and see if they click on anything in the second email. And it just could, we haven't finished building out the whole thing, but eventually we'll have our landing page where it can focus on those topics, whatever they're clicking through. Right now, it's just we write blogs. And so the clicks go into one of the blogs on the website with a full article. So, but I thought it was crazy. So we're integrating some robotics into the floor cleaning. So we bought some from China and we're testing them out and all this stuff. And so a lot of people were excited to hear about it, but facility managers have not been excited about that at all. So the procurement people are excited. The facility managers hate the idea to death. And so I ran a test in IFMA, and I put a survey out there. Hey, what are you looking for? AI sensors for preventive maintenance or robotic labor supplementation? And there was one more thing. Robotics got 0 votes. It wasn't even one. And I mean, we had like 400 or 500 votes, and not even one person voted for robotic labor supplementation. But if you put that in a procurement room, that they're going to it's going to be a whole bunch of hits up there. And so it's where they're not aligned with the budget people, finance, but the facilities people are the ones that get us in the door. And so I just kind of trying to figure out how to run against that. But yeah, we're always looking to innovate, add different technology and stuff.
it's awesome that I don't meet not everyone's as technical savvy as you and understanding all that. And you wouldn't know this yet, but just on I think it was Friday, I interviewed Victor Antonio. So he's written a bunch of books, but he's got a book coming out in future of sales, future of selling.ai in March, and he's of the opinion that a lot of the salespeople, especially for the simplistic sales, not so much the complex, but the simplistic sales, the top of the funnel is going to go away. And so, yeah, you're going to have that, whether or not that's true or not, I think it probably is. You're going to have, though, based on the job description of the person you're dealing with, they're either going to have self-serving interests to avoid it or self-serving interests to embrace it. Um, and that really comes down to knowing what your ideal customer profile, which obviously you understand that. So
Yeah.
you can see as you get more and more into it, it starts becoming more and more complex in the sense of understanding, that you just can't do a blanket. My point to everyone watching, you can't just do a blanket email to the CEO and to a different person. They have a different mindset, different job titles, different responsibilities. And
Mhm.
and so you really have to spend the time understanding your customer. It sounds like you've done that. So once you get the interest, how are you closing people? You get the meeting. Do you do a walkthrough? And do you have any tools to help you with that walkthrough, or what does that look like?
So uh, yeah, we set up a walkthrough. I think the we have pretty good success with walkthroughs. The big thing with me and why I have a hard time turning over sales is because one, I want to make sure that we're selling what we're doing. So whatever processes we put in place, that's what I'm offering to the customer, nothing more, nothing less. And then we hold them accountable on the operations side to make sure they're doing what we told them that was going to be done. But the the thing that we have the most success with is, when we do a walkthrough, it's not about, they don't care. They really don't know what they're showing us. That's what I found out over the years. You got some front office lady, she's coming through. They told me to walk you through the building. What do you want to see? And she's just like, look over there, look over there. Or the facility manager, and all he's thinking about is his job, right? These are the things that I get the complaints on. These are the pains in the butt that I got to deal with. So these are things I want you to take away. But he's not thinking about any of the other stuff that we got to do on a day-to-day basis. So the walkthroughs are really not super informative. You get to see the place, but you have to deduce all that information yourself. What the walkthrough should really be about is building a working relationship with this person. So you need to find out what their struggles are, especially around your particular industry, or at their job, something that you can relate to with them about the things that they're proud of, things that they enjoy about that. And then you want to find out how you can address any pain points, how you can specifically add value to them. And if you find those three things in that one conversation, they're going to remember you. And that's the biggest thing about those walkthroughs, is being remembered. So then when I send that email and it's three people and our prices are very similar, but I'm over $200 above the other two, they're going to still pick me because they're like, oh, yeah, I like that guy. It's just, I like JDM. I like that guy. And that goes a long way. Like, I've seen people, when you do those big group walkthroughs, and we'll be doing a city or a school district or something, and they'll send out all these salespeople who are really not paying attention. They're not asking questions. They're not engaged, and they're just going to take the same information the owner or the salesperson, whoever they're taking it to, they already had that information. They didn't need to send you out there to go gather that. They wanted you to build a relationship. And most of the time, those people are not doing that. They're just kind of going through the motions and hoping that the numbers will do what they needed to do. And to me, I think that's a waste of a walkthrough. If you're not building a relationship, most of that stuff could have been sent in an email.
Right. Yeah, no, I love it. It's funny you say that because we're have a meeting on Friday. Today's Monday, anyone that's watching. And we're actually going to do a 1.5 hour somewhat seminar in March on the walkthrough, because so many people. We're going to do it with Joel Craddock, a master trainer with ISSA,
Mhm.
and we're going to do on that because the walkthrough is such an important piece. It's not about simply just doing a quote, right?
No.
But a lot of people think that, especially if they're trying to put, bread on the table, right? If they're really tight and stuff like that. And you're right; it's a great opportunity to build a relationship. It's a great opportunity to add value, to differentiate yourself, which is what you're talking about, being memorable. Them leaving there going, okay, I like that guy. He knows what he's doing. As long as he's not out to lunch on his pricing and stuff like that,
Right, exactly.
right? As long as it's within parameters that they can
Yeah.
justify.
Yep.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So now, with respect to got the sales and marketing. Now, moving to the operations side, a lot of people, they really have it depends on where you're located, but a real challenge on getting people and then keeping people. Um, how's that been for you? And do you have anything that's been working for you to ease that burden?
Yeah, so in Texas, it's kind of like a gray line about employees, contractors, independent contractors, classification. It's not like California where it's very, you have to be this to be an employee, you have to be this to be a contractor. It's
Yeah.
real gray. And so most of our people fall in that independent contractor boat. And so what a lot of companies do is they treat them like you would treat a legitimate subcontractor, right? Somebody that's
Yeah.
fully autonomous. We don't. We bring them in. We do optional trainings for them if they want to learn something. They want to learn strip and wax floors. They want to learn to do carpets. We can help them with that. we do meetings so that they can hear about whatever we're doing next, new opportunities. If they want to expand into a different region or state, and we're going over there, we open it up to them. Hey, if you got cousins, aunts, uncles in Houston, we're going down to Houston next month. We need some people. We do referral bonuses. So if they bring a contractor in that stays for more than 90 days, they get $50 or $100, whatever it is. No, we do gifts. This year we did two random drawings. One of them got a big Coach purse. The other one got a whole Nike outfit and some other stuff. It was a guys and girls type of deal. But it's I believe everything is about building relationships. And when people stop building relationships, there's nothing holding them back in this marketplace. Then you become a check and a dollar sign. So now I gotta compete against people who have way more money than I do. So, if I'm trying to go dollar to dollar with ABM or dollar to dollar with SBM, or I can't. It's impossible for me to go dollar to dollar with them. And so I have to treat the people like family. I have to give them respect. If they need time off, we're real flexible with that. Hey, give us a call and we'll get somebody to cover your stuff and you go take care of your family. And that is real family oriented type of feel that we have here.
Yeah.
And we have had, when somebody gets in our system, like usually at first 3 months, maybe month, somewhere in between 30 to 90 days, it clicks. And once it clicks, man, we rarely lose somebody to another company or to something silly. Now, we had a guy go above and beyond, and they had graffiti all over the walls in one of the bathrooms, and he went to his car and got some gasoline and tried to clean it off outside of scope, outside of everything. And we had to let him go. That happens. But as far as somebody just quitting unexpectedly, it rarely happens once they make it through that 30 to 90-day window with us. And I think it's just because the way, like, we did surveys and they were like, we really like the company, we like the people. And so that's something I push with management, our operations, our even our director of construction services. Those are short-term projects, but I'm like, hey, it's about having that team on the ready. So you need to have a relationship where they'll pick your job over somebody else's job. And just like building with the customers, it's the same with building with the employees or the contractors, to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're obviously doing something right if you're not having much of an issue, because I mean, on a best case scenario, it's 100, most cases it's 100% turnover a year, more like two or even three. But
Yeah, we're probably about, when we take on new contracts, usually you go through one or two people right off the bat.
yeah,
The standard contracts, we hardly have any movement, so they balance out to be about 75% a year.
well, good for you,
Yeah.
good for you. Um, so uh, so you got the sales, marketing, operations. Now, I know you mentioned you used the CRM, but do you use any other tools or anything to help you with the bidding or help you with the managing jobs, or and if so, what kind of tools and how does that help you?
Yeah, we use lots of different stuff.
Yeah,
We use QuickBooks to keep up with our finances. That's super important. If you can't pull a report on your cost and you can't evaluate your business and you really don't know what you're doing, like you literally don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening. If I can't see, hey, this dollar's coming in, this dollar's going out, this is my cost, this is what I need to mark up, this is you're just guessing on everything and you're hoping that it's going well. And then you don't find out till tax time that the reason that your bank account's empty is because you haven't been charging enough or you've been paying too much.
yeah.
And so that's my favorite tool, QuickBooks. I can get in there and make those evaluations quick. We use, let me think, we were looking at switching over to Aspire, but things, I don't know. It's been difficult. So we've had Swept before and they were pretty solid, but they were missing a couple of features.
Oh, you
Um,
were using Swept?
yeah, Swept's pretty good.
Yeah,
We like Swept. It was just missing a couple of things that we were supposed to get from the new thing,
yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's, I was curious because there's lots of different tools out there. Like we had uh Edwin on here. He owns iPro Janitorial in Washington, but he also owns Clean Cinch, which
And
is
we're looking at Cinch too.
oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
The So I was just curious because there's I mean there's all you know, they all have their pros and cons and things like that, but uh, definitely has a place to be able to help you manage and see where your jobs are at and stuff like that. So I wanted to kind of see where things were like on that.
Yeah.
Um, as we wind down here, um, uh, what's the future look like? What's the plans for JDM? Are you staying just in Fort Worth? Are you expanding? What's that look like?
Yeah, we are going wherever we can go. So
Yeah,
we already started in like I was telling you out in the Toronto area
yeah,
in Canada, and that went really well. And so with that confidence from seeing our processes translate across the border, we are open for business. We're talking to the military about a national contract right now. We'll see how it goes. We're talking to CBRE about expanding into, I think I'm going to have a meeting in New Jersey here pretty soon. And so we're open to it. I think the hardest part about running any business is getting those processes in place and seeing them actually work without you needing to be the one doing it. And once you do that, you know that anybody can pick up your book, your playbook, and run your plays. Then you can go wherever you want to go. The problem is creating the playbook that people can actually follow. And so that took a long time to get there.
yeah. And just two. You make me think by that statement. Just two very basic, simple books that bring me back to that and learning how important that was the E Myth by Michael Gerber, work on your business, not in your business. And
Hmm.
then Rich Dad Poor Dad, which he had the quadrant. And there's a difference from a business owner to from a small business owner to a business owner, and it's really systems, right? Having those systems in place so that you can duplicate and replicate. Um, and just us with our company as we grow, you're always learning about new standard operating procedures, right? There's a new thing
Right.
that you need to
Hmm.
implement, and recognizing that, and then articulating that and then having that, now you're expanding your the way you do things and that. But I always learned that for being a young guy. I used to work at Wendy's, and Wendy's went from, well, he had three Kentucky Fried Chickens, right? And then he opened up Wendy's, and he did 3,000 franchises in 10 years. That's
Mm.
how fast he grew. And uh, I never understood. It made me understand about business because I was there, and they would have flip the burgers a certain amount of time, and then the meat would be taken off, right? And I always wondered why. And then I realized that Wendy's is the only fast food hamburger joint that makes chili. And
Mm.
so he made the chili, so he always, so
Oh,
his
he didn't waste
inventory
it.
was never bad. Always had fresh burgers on. You go through Wendy's at 3 o'clock in the morning, unless you're asking for 8 or 9 burgers, something like that. You just want a burger or whatever. It's going to be hot and fresh because they're not wasting their meat. Whereas you go other places, and it might be, if it's quick, it's been microwaved. If not, you're waiting. And
Right.
that always stuck with me was
That's pretty
as I
cool.
was flipping these burgers, and then I realized as I got older, it's a system. There's a madness to this thing. So that's great
That's
advice. I mean, on having systems and just how important it is to help you scale.
hmm.
So, and I like that. So you're in Canada, so you can honestly say you're an international business.
Yeah, yeah, we are.
Love
Yeah.
it,
Yes,
love it.
sir.
Well, this has been great. Last question. Uh, if you had to start over again tomorrow, you wake up, you don't have anything, you got to start over again. What's the one lesson that you would tell your younger self when you started off? What's the one thing that you wish you knew when you started that you know now that would be invaluable to yourself and perhaps anyone listening?
Mm. The first thing is, I think the thing that I have gotten the most out of, and that's recently, is connecting yourself with people who have already done it before. I think I try to do so much on my own. I try to figure out so much on my own. I try to control so much on my own. And it led to a whole bunch of slow starts and aggravation for nothing. Where somebody like I met this guy Ed pretty early, Ed Selkow, and he explained a couple of things to me that changed. It helped me grow my business, and it was a 5 minute conversation. He's like, "Well, tell me about your business. What do you do?" And I'm telling him, we do this, we do because I've always been like an innovation guy. I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna change this up," and he's like, "Oh, that's great." And then he said, "So tell me your value proposition that you would tell a customer." And I'm describing a super large company, and he's like, "Trash." You need to be you. Do what you do best, and the people that you sign up will be happy with you. And I changed that around, and man, we just started growing all of a sudden. I mean, we had been stuck for years, and I wasted all that time. And one 5 minute conversation really changed my perspective and helped me change my business. And so I would connect with people who are doing well right off the bat, really early.
What's funny about your comment there is, or your response there is, I'm going to say 80 to 90% of everyone that I've spoken to that last question, they say exactly the same thing differently sometimes. Join a mastermind or do this or do that, but it's about surrounding yourself with when you're a business owner, it can be a lonely thing. You're on your own, and having a mastermind or a coach or a mentor or what have you. And you mentioned Ed Selko. I mean, you're not the only ones that mentioned Ed. So Ed's obviously had an impact on a lot of people in this industry, continues to do so. But that's great advice. And I'm doing the same thing. I just recently got a coach as well, just because I'm like, at first I was like, I don't need a coach. And then
Right.
I'm thinking, well, then I was reading what was it? The book by the Winning. I can't remember his name, but he trained Kobe, he trained Michael Jordan, all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, if these guys are like the best of the best, and
Yep.
they have a coach, that doesn't make them uh, worse players, right? You don't go,
Right.
oh my God, Michael Jackson as a coach, he must not be. You're like, oh, that makes sense. That's why he's better, because they can see your faults or whatever, and that's what like a mastermind or a coach or whatever does, right? You can
Right.
feed off each other. Love that. So where can everyone find you? I will put everything in the show notes, but you're on LinkedIn. Do you have YouTube? What channels? Where can anyone want to know more about you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, our website. Those are our main things. We have Facebook as well. But yeah, LinkedIn, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see everything because that's where we post the most.
Yeah, LinkedIn's a great one for B2B, right? I mean, yeah.
Yes.
Well, Joseph, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
It's so awesome to talk to different people, different areas of the world, particularly in the U.S. And every little state's a little bit different, but a lot of this is just reminding all of us of the importance of systems, the importance of technology, embracing technology, and the importance of having a coach or a mastermind or a mentor. So,
Mhm.
ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching Clean Pro. I'm Adon Rigg. Joseph Lockhart with JDM Janitorial, based out of Fort Worth, Texas. And until next time,